So hello everyone, I am Jennifer Davis. I also am at SIGJE. So go ahead and tweet out to me and say hello because I love you all. I'm from the San Francisco area. If you're ever there, I would love to have some coffee with you. I also work at Chef. We didn't actually say that earlier. I am now doing automation consulting engineering, so I work with a lot of awesome people who are somewhere in here. Can you guys give a shout out? Woo! Awesome. I'm passionate about women in technology, and I'm really glad that I work for an employer that is also passionate. This is just half of the women that were at an event, the Chef Conference this year, and next year I want us to even be a lot more. I also go to Grace Hopper Conference and promote, and I encourage all of you, even the males, to go to Grace Hopper. If you don't know what that is, it's a conference that is encouraging women in technology, lots of content, lots of high school to college students that really need to be inspired about all the different opportunities they have, including around operations. So, why am I saying from hero to zero? When I announced this talk, a lot of people are like, don't you mean from zero to hero? And I don't. And I didn't actually pay the guy yesterday to say to you all, hey, we're all heroes out there. I didn't, right? It's a problem. I don't think that we're heroes. So I came to this conclusion when I was working at an unnamed company, and I had been doing it for a while, and it was such great technology. I was actually doing platform service engineering, so it was pretty damn awesome technology. And I started when it sort of became a thing. So I knew all the things about the thing. And then we finally had resources to add people. I couldn't successfully train them. And I didn't understand why. I wrote documentation. I did all the things you're supposed to do, but it didn't work. And I thought about it. And I got a new boss, and he told me to go take a vacation, right? Because I was tired. And I was like, no, things will fail. And he's like, no, they'll be fine. I come back from vacation, the shit has hit the fan. The first Sub-Zero in history, and it's my product. Something I'd been so proud of. It had so much redundancy, except for one thing, me. I was the failure. And I realized my whole thought process about what it meant to do my job and how we influence people to do this job, to think that this is how it's supposed to be, was completely wrong. And so that's why I'm here today. I want to help you, help me make our culture be about the zero impact on people, about having outages, spending time working all the time rather than actually living life and not stressing out, which is also a benefit to the companies that we work at. So there's a lot of definitions for hero. This is one that's on Wikipedia. This kind of describes Superman. I'm not going to read this to you because I'm not a slide reader. This second one kind of is closer to what we describe ourselves, an ordinary someone who's in an extraordinary circumstances. So that's not us really. We're not in extraordinary circumstances. This is our day-to-day job. We're just working, right? So maybe it's someone who does extraordinary deeds for the benefit of others. That kind of describes us, right, Seth? Vargo, there you go, yay. That kind of describes him. He's working all the time. So when we actually look at someone who's actually done a lot of research on mythology and describing heroes, it's about someone who gives their life for the benefit of others, right? So I don't think that's what we are doing when we're working all the time and when we're actually hacking on a solution and we worked really late and we're like, yeah, I worked till 2 a.m. It was like awesome though. And then we spend all weekend doing something and it just compounds. Like It's like we're one-upping each other on how much we're working and what we're doing. And sometimes we're a hero because we did the shit nobody else wanted to do. Like, that's the worst kind of heroism because, like, who wants to do that, right? And that's usually what the senior people get stuck with because you're the one who knows how to do everything. I'm going to call you up at 5 a.m. to fix this because you are the only one. Please help me. So when we do these behaviors, we affect our relationships. We get sleep deprivation. This is not something I'm making up. This is like real stuff. We get dissatisfied with our jobs. And there's also this really important thing that we don't really talk about until it happens to us or it happens to someone we care about, and it's this loss of self-confidence. So all these things are bad, right? This is not heroism because what did we say? Heroism is about a good thing. It's a beneficial thing. Real story. Towards the end of my potential unnamed job, I was paged out on a Sunday for something I could do nothing about. Had nothing to do with my service. And I was talking to the guy, and I noticed he had emailed me about 10 times urgently. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? And he goes, oh, it's just really urgent. I got to get this up. It's really important. Well, so I was working on the Hadoop team at this point. I'm like, you're doing batch jobs. Why is this really important on a Sunday? He's like, no, it's really important. And we continue talking, and I'm like, dude, you need to have a real life. You don't need to be like doing this. He's like, really? And I'm like, what? What do you mean, really? And I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, I shift into mentor mode. And I'm like, yeah, no, this is not something you do. And he goes, oh, this is like, I'm new, and I didn't know. And when I'm on call, like, does this mean I can have lunch? And I'm like, oh my God, what are we telling new people that are coming into this industry? We're like burning them out. Really? You didn't know? He's like, yeah, I just carry my laptop and I keep it open because I read all the email. So I got in on Monday and I noticed the dude called me at my phone in my office first. So that kind of tells me he was in the office and thought that everybody else should be there too who was on call. It was just very weird. So let's actually educate people that are coming up. This is not the way to do operations. It's not the way to do DevOps, right? So more about that science. Sleep deprivation seems like brain damage, right? If you knew that the more you didn't sleep, the more bad decisions you would make, and it actually impacted your job, would you actually keep doing it? I think that sometimes we become blind to the fact that we're blind. We don't know that we're wrong, right? That we're making bad decisions and we can't help ourselves. So I found this really great example. This woman, she actually became the CFO of Lehman Brothers in a time where they were having a lot of problems, right? She was fired in June 2008, and she described her experiences. And it was so awesome because it made me think about this whole self-confidence issue when people get laid off and all they're doing is working, right? Layoffs are a way of life. It's not something bad, it just sometimes happens. Companies fail. We have to expect that, right? But if we're so caught up that everything that we define ourselves as is work, we are gonna fail. And we're not gonna know how to get up. So when I read this and I heard what she described her work as, and this nonstop working, it made me think, if she had had proper sleep before they came to her and offered the CFO position, would she have actually taken it? Now, she might not have had that opportunity, right? Because she wasn't working all the time. But sometimes we make stupid decisions about where we are going because we just don't have enough sleep. So one of the things that people talk about is how we're similar to other industries, and we are. But we have the opportunity to improve our industry, and we have the power to do it, but we're not. One of the things that I found really interesting, this is a guy who's a railway engineer, John Paul Wright. They have this whole thing about no single employee crews. Imagine if you worked at a place where you actually didn't have the one ops person, right? You had multiple. Because why are we putting people in these super high risk experiences if there's not another person to help out, right? So, why does this matter? Burnout. Has anyone here actually experienced burnout? Raise your hand. It really sucks, right? I have not experienced burnout. I came really close. And I don't want to ever experience it. I saw myself going that way. And they've done some science and analyzed what problems kind of lead to burnout. It's not just about working long hours. It's also about lack of control over our work, insufficient rewards, the workplace community. What does that mean? That's the people that you work with, whether they're positive and you actually feel enlightened from them, like they lift you up. So it actually really matters that you work with people you like. So Marie Asperg came up with this exhaustion funnel to sort of describe this. We start at the top, we have a very balanced life, everything's going well, and we get that really awesome job. We want that job. And then we realize we can't sleep, we're getting paged all the time, we don't have enough energy, so we start cutting out the things that are optional, because work is first, right? We don't hang out with our friends, we skip a few family events, we're not doing all those things that actually give us energy, give us that support that we need. And this is how we slide down this funnel, right? It's something that will happen and we can't stop ourselves because we're fueling ourselves with caffeine and alcohol. Like we're solving for what isn't the problem. So why do we even have a 40-hour work week, right? If we're all going to work 50, 60 hours? Well, there's actually been experimentation by Ford years ago that showed that less than 40-hour work weeks, people didn't get as much done, but over 60, it was horrible, right? You lose productivity, so it doesn't make sense for companies in the long term to have people working more than 60 hours, right? There's actually these graphs, I put in the slide references where you can go take a look at them, where the area above, after 4 weeks, this area in red is bigger than the area in the green. And the point being, yeah, in the beginning, that first 4 weeks, you're totally getting more value out of your people. But after that, it's increasingly diminishing returns. So you could take from this, hey, maybe you only do 4 weeks at a time, and then I just let you actually take a break and only work 40 hours. Well, they did testing for that too. So this is stuff we don't actually need to test more on, except for the fact that this is not knowledge work. And there's indications that knowledge work, the hours should be about 35. So what they decided or came up with their testing is, if you had, say, a deadline and you wanted to push people, you could push them for 3 weeks straight, and then that fourth week, their productivity will totally drop off and give them a break, and then it will not be as bad as a jump back, right? So you want to manage how much you make people work over the 40 hours. I'm going to take a quick drink here because my throat. So you think you're Superman, right? And you are never going to burn out. This I based off of what I kind of asked, like a random poll. What's the pay here average? So if you're in Silicon Valley, it's a lot different. 50,000 base pay. And I'm just assuming 40,000 sort of in benefits, right? And you get that $500 on-call bonus because, woo, $500. And then the third graph is showing you get that one-off scale because at the 70 to 100 hours per week, you're doing so awesome, we're going to give you $40,000. Look at the values of your time. And if you thought about it, how much would you do instead? Like, is there something else you would do instead of what you're doing? Do you not value yourself at a higher level than a lower level? So I know 50,000, not much. Maybe you're making a whole lot more. But really look back at that and think, my relationships with my family, the time that I have with my friends, you can't make that up, right? At some point, you're going to leave that work where you think you're the one. You're not going to be able to buy back those relationships. So, okay, I've talked about why this matters. Let's just talk a little bit about what these heroes that we know and love, what they're about. So, Superman. The dude has powers. He is energized by the sun. He doesn't even need to sleep, right? It's no function for him. But you know what? He never thinks through solving problems because he's got so much power. He just does shit. And sometimes he wants to be in two places at the same time, so he ends up not doing as good of a job at anything, right? And he thinks that people are dumb enough that they don't recognize him with just taking off his glasses. So, Flash. Dude's got agility. That's what we want, right? Agility? Well, the dude does not think about context. He's all like, I'm speeding along and causing sonic booms and destroying things in the process because he hasn't thought about the context. Aquaman. This dude he doesn't do anything wrong, right? He's just like awesome, but only in the water. Do we know anybody who claims to something religiously because that's the thing? That's an awesome hero. I don't need to explain this, right? If you smash shit, like, you can't come back. So, this guy, how many people know Steel? Raise your hands. Okay. Steel, normal human being. And he loves Superman. So he's a really smart guy. He made a suit and gave to emulate his icon. So instead of thinking about his talents and skills and the best ways he could use his skills, he turned himself into Superman. Why would you want to do that? And my absolute favorite, because this guy, he's the loner. He's that lone wolf in the middle of the night making changes to shit to solve everything because that's what's going to work. So, and then, not only does he make changes, he takes all the problems and makes them go away, but he doesn't document any of it. So, what the hell? That's not what I want out of my work environment. So, zero culture. I want you all to empty out the monkeys from your sacks on your back. Let's stop talking about developers and operations or operators. Excuse me, I got the wrong word. We aren't roles. We're people. We have skills. Let's stop handing each other these sacks full of crazy monkeys and actually just get shit done. So how do we do that, right? Well, first, there's work that's shown how to have a happy work environment, a more productive work environment. And this is not specific to knowledge workers, right? This is hairdressers. This is everybody, because humans, we are human. We want to have the freedom to choose how we work, what we work on. We want to be challenged. We want to know that we're solving a complex problem. We want to learn shit from our peers, from all the people around us, and we want to have a great atmosphere. And that does not come when you're sleep deprived. And we want to do something that has a personal, meaningful contribution, right? So a lot of people will say, I can tell you the way. I can sell you the shit. No, you can't. I can't. I'm not going to tell you, here's what you need to do. I'm going to give you some maybe guideposts. And the previous talk was actually really excellent in describing some of the things that you need to do along your way. So the first thing, identify who your team is. This is not about development and operations, right? This is about who has the common goal. It's different roles because you need diversity in how you look at problems. How do you solve complex problems? If you all are agreeing about what you're trying to do, you're going to miss the fact that your customers are going to use shit in a different way, right? And it's people with the same objectives. I'm not going to tell you who your team is. You need to do that in your own place. And I know how much people love mission statements, right? Spend a little time on that mission statement. It's actually really important. The first thing is, have you actually evaluated what's out there? Are you duplicating effort? You shouldn't be, right? Is everyone on the same page? Words mean different things to different people. You can say something and think you're accomplishing something, and you're all in a complete disconnect. So you have to make sure that everyone thinks the same thing is the goal. Why? Because you want a clear statement about the problem. And you also want to provide a direction. Pete's stadium picture, great visual of this. You want to know you're not going to be going backwards. You also want to have that sense of identity, right? Because we define ourselves in part by what we work on and how we do it. And it provides you a little bit of team cohesion. So here are some of the little milestones. How many people have heard of Kanban? How many people use Kanban? A lot of people think it's a waste of time. Well, I'm not going to tell you go do Kanban because it might be a waste of your time. What I am going to tell you is you need to visualize your work. And why? Because you want your middle managers to get the hell off your back. And the problem is, why are they asking you what's the status? Because they don't know, right? So if we want to get the middle managers out, we have to give them a way to give them what they need, right? It also lets us measure our progress. If we don't know where we are, we can't actually make changes, right? How do you know you're learning? So something that little idea asked a while ago on Twitter. How do you know you're learning? Well, you don't if you're not measuring. So, how many people have an artifact repository? How many people know what an artifact repository is? That is an important concept. It's where your software is. How many people package their software? Homework, folks. You need to know this stuff. Source control. How many people source control? Raise them high and leave them up. How many people work on a team where everyone uses source control and uses it in a consistent manner? Drop your hand if they don't. Right? This needs to be everybody in this room, right? Infrastructure as code. We've had a lot of people talking about this is this and this is that and how awesome is this? Well, who's your subject matter expert? Right? Do you have only one? Then you haven't solved your problem. How many people can you lose from your project and it fails? If it's one, you failed, right? When I hear people say, technology X is hard, so I did Y, right? Especially shell scripts, like, oh, that's too hard. Look at, this is the simple thing. We have to think not of ourselves, because yeah, I totally do this. Like, I love shell scripts. You can get shit done really fast. But then I have to give it to somebody else. They can't do it. And then I'm spending time providing support for them. What if tools like Chef provide? abstractions. You can specify, install Apache. Couple lines. You don't care how it's installed until you care, and then you can dig into that. But people can easily read that shit, right? Your shell scripts? No. It's like you're trying to assume that they know what's supposed to happen. How many people treat their documentation as code? Awesome. Some of you guys need to work on that. So, how many people do local development? Use Vagrant, all that good stuff? Do your developers and, I shouldn't say this, but does everybody on your team use it? And by team, I mean the operations, developers, because everybody should be doing it. It shouldn't be like test shit in production. So you need tests, and those tests need to define and help with your monitoring, right? Great talk earlier describing all the things that I would put in here if I had lots of more time. And is it actionable, right? By that I mean, if you get paged, does it have meaning? If you haven't cleaned up your noise, that's not great. So once you've solved all these little pieces, you can start building out pipelines, and you can actually accomplish more. And why do we care about this? Because we want to provide a way for people to have these things. If you are able to replicate your environments, if you're able to have a pipeline, if you have tests, people can figure out how they're going to do shit. They're going to feel challenged. We can share information. It doesn't matter if you have more skills in ops and I have skills in Ruby, because we're all sharing information because we have a goal, right? And when we get sleep and we do all these things, we're going to have a positive environment. So let's get rid of the Batmans. No more loners out there dropping awesomeness off without the documentation. And so in summary, I've talked about sort of the current industry practices, and we need to get away from this thought that it's heroism. I've talked about the impacts of working in a heroic manner. I've talked about our myths. I've given you a little bit of a hint of a path to take, because I haven't told you what you're supposed to do. So now for the right? How many people have read Kathy Sierra's "Your App is Making Me Fat"? You all need to read this, because what do I really mean about zero culture? I'm talking about empathy, but people don't like feelings, right? We don't talk about feelings. So I couldn't say from hero to empathy. So zero culture is about empathy, and it's about doing and building things in a way that we're thinking about who is going to use our software. If we start out and we say, I've written something that my operations folks can manage in a good way and is not going to page them all night, then they're going to be more able to talk to people all along the line. When we actually build with empathy, we are not taking away from people. We are not taking their time trying to explain something. So thank you so much. My Twitter again is @SIGJE. I would love to have a coffee ops open space later, and now I can enjoy the conference.